Welcome to I Finally Get It. Do you ever feel like life is just too hard sometimes? Our next guest would probably say you're right. In this week's episode, we welcome Roy Petitfils, author, speaker, and internationally recognized expert in understanding and raising teenagers. In studio with me, as always, Dustin Webb, our producer. I'm your host, Jeff Martin. Let's get it. Roy, I'm so glad to have you in the studio here. It's been such a long time.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
It's been a hot minute.
We need to get back to what's been going on. But first, let's talk about the moment when you said, I finally get it.
This was about a year and a half ago, laying in my bed. Probably the worst state of depression I've ever been in my life. I'm laying there with 10 of my 12 ribs cracked. Breathing felt like a snake was biting my soul. I had a moment like I've never felt more hopeless. I was like, I'm just never going to recover from this. And that afternoon, as I'm just laying there thinking, I was like, oh, life's hard. That's just the nature of life. It's hard. And I think it was a real graced moment. And I felt this too shall pass.
Yeah.
The physical pain, the emotional pain, the depression, this too shall pass. And I'm a year and a half out of that. And it's changed the way I look at life for my clients, for myself, for my family, the way I help my boys. It's just absolutely this too shall pass.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, huge.
This is temporary.
Yeah.
This is temporary.
Thank you for sharing that. So you've gotten out of that and you're amazing. And you always have been. We first met probably 10 years ago now?
Yeah, it's been 10 years, man.
It's crazy. And I remember meeting you. I think Scotty Beaudoin introduced us.
That's right. He sure did.
And we met and it was like instant, man. That's a brother from another mother right here.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. And so we go way back. Give me a history of where'd you grow up? I know it, but I want, anybody watching this.
Yeah. I am from a small little Cajun town called Jeanerette, Louisiana, like down Highway 90. So I grew up there. My mom was a school secretary. And Jeanerette, just a great little town, cane farm in town. I grew up right across from the sugar mill and even worked in the cane fields when I was younger. Loved it. I went to a little small Catholic school there that closed when I was in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And my mom sent me to, Catholic High in New Iberia. And eventually we moved to New Iberia. So I spent about half of my childhood in Jeanerette and then the other half, in New Iberia. And, graduated from Catholic in 91 and went to USL. USL and majored in everything for 7 years. Literally, I changed my major 7 times. And do you want me to keep going with that story?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's so interesting because your background, today you're a counselor. That's right. And you specialize in dealing with teens and teen issues.
That's right.
But it took a while to get there. Because you worked at high schools.
That's right. I did. I was in seminary. So when I was at UL, I had eaten a lot of my emotional pain away as a kid. So I graduated from high school at 535 pounds, went to college, flunked out, worked with a bunch of iron workers for a year, who fired me but gave me $5,000 to go back to school because I didn't belong there. Like, man, the life-changing moments in my life. And then I go to Our Lady of Wisdom and meet Father Hampton Davis, Matt Hebert, Jeremy Frew, my wife, a whole bunch of folks who just loved me and accepted me. And that was just a game changer. And I was like, I want to be just like that priest. And went to the seminary for 6 years. And I began doing youth work there. Like I started working with young people at UL, was doing it when I was in seminary. Even when I went and worked with Mother Teresa's sister several times, was working with young people. And so when I ended up discerning out of seminary, landed at St. Thomas More, and so much of what I utilize as a good teen therapist today, I learned inside the walls of St. Thomas More. Yeah. I worked with some of the best people on the planet, faculty, administration, the families of kids there. were patient with me and taught me so much. And it was during that time that I decided to go back and get my master's in counseling. And it was very clear to me quickly, like they were just coming to me. People were just sending their teenagers to me. Even before I graduated, they were sending them to me. And I loved it. And I still love it. 15 years later, I saw 3 teens this morning and I just love it.
So what are some of the challenges teens are going through today? I know I happen to have one of your books, Helping Teens with Stress, Anxiety, and Depression.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a handbook.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. And I remember this was your 4th book, I think?
Yeah, 4th or 5th. No, I think that was the 5th book. Yeah.
So what are, you know when you don't remember, and I think that was the 5th book.
I think
You've written a few books.
I've written a few. I've written a bunch,
it's
actually.
Awesome. And they're all amazing.
Thank you. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
What are some of these kids going to? I still have a senior in high school.
Yeah.
And it's just really weird today.
They are, if I had to nail it down, anxiety, depression, we're really just coming out of the pandemic and how that affected kids. Like we're still seeing some effects with younger kids. So they're recovering more from that. I think the speed of life, how busy families are, I think teens are adjusting to that. But the pressures from social media, the temptations on social media and media just in general really affects teens a lot. And so parents, I know that sounds so boomer of me to say, but parents are rightly concerned about it. And, but yeah, it does affect them and they'll go down like really niche rabbit holes of interest. Like we used to just be able to ask teens 10 years ago, what kind of music do you listen to? And what do you watch on TV? Those questions mean nothing to this day. Like, who do you follow on YouTube? And like, walk me down the niche rabbit hole. And that will tell me a lot more about what's going on.
That's genius.
In that teen's life. Like, what influencer are you following? Let's pull them up. And I've got I do pretty well because I have 2 teenage boys who help me identify who these people are. That really helps. Yeah.
I would have never thought about that. And that's why we need to listen to you.
Would you tell my wife that?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I know personally you've helped so many kids along their journeys.
Thank you.
And it's been amazing to watch.
Yeah.
You talk about kids, but you're a counselor and you dealt with depression.
Oh yeah, I deal with it.
Yeah,
like I haven't dealt with it. I continue to deal with it. I think for me, it was, I was naturally drawn to working with teenagers. The stuff that drives most people crazy about teenagers just fascinates me.
Yeah.
Like it just fascinates me. All of it fascinates me. And I think for me, I went through so much as a teenager.
Sure.
So much, like not having a dad, being poor, being a poor kid in a very affluent school. Graduated from high school and I thought I was poor, fat, and stupid. Those were the 3 ways I identified myself. And I could have used me. And I had some folks who, it wasn't that there weren't people who cared about me, because there were plenty of people who rooted for me, but no one ever really got me until I met Father Hampton Davis. Yeah. Like he got me and I saw myself in him. And we're still very good friends to this day. And I think part of being a therapist is that I just wanted to be what I needed when I was a teenager. Correct. And I wanted somebody to really see me. I was and still am a complex guy.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a complex guy. So
it's just beautiful how you didn't find him. Maybe somebody placed Father Hampton Davis in your path. And you are that person for so many people. And it's amazing. And I sure appreciate how you're positioned in this community.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the folks that trust me.
Yeah.
It's a huge amount of trust that I don't take lightly. And I think sometimes folks think I do, but I don't. Like I'm very acutely aware of the financial, the trust investment in someone like me. It was right around the time when you and I first met. Like that was one of the another things that when I finally got it, I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Don't you, me, you, Scotty Beaudoin, Jeff Benton, we're sitting around the table and I was like, I want to be a business consultant. You and Scotty were like, you need to keep working with teenagers, man. Exactly. And I was like, are you sure? And then I was like, yeah, I do. And I love it. I'm so grateful for the many good people who have trusted me with their kids. And I've worked really hard to be the guy.
Yeah, and you are.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears, kind of go back to COVID, because the other day I was talking with somebody and can't hardly find good people to work anymore today.
That's what I hear.
And I just think, I feel like COVID changed everything. It changed people, and we got a taste of what it's like not to be working. We got a taste what it's like to be kind of paid to stay home sometimes. How has it changed kids? Has it changed you?
Yeah, it changed me for a while just because I was kind of burnt out with a lot of traveling. In addition to counseling, about half the time I was speaking. And so I was traveling, speaking 3 or 4 times a month. So I was ready to shut it all down, but I wanted to shut it down on my own terms. And COVID took that from me, and it shut both of my businesses down cold for about 2 months. So I was very fortunate to have the benefit from the Paycheck Protection Program. But, we kind of got back going and whatnot. And my wife worked throughout. A lot of folks did not do well during COVID, like during the shutdown, especially when everything got shut down. Folks were really not doing well. And, we have an old saying in my line of work, crap rolls downhill. So when the parents aren't doing well, the kids aren't doing well. Yeah. And I think kids saw their parents for the first time in their lives. Parents are good people like me and you who know better than to let kids see our raw emotional state. Like, we did that for a few weeks, and then we were like, oh, crap. We couldn't mask it anymore. Yeah. And so they saw that kids who really needed to be around their friends, we took them out. And we think we felt it here. Places like Chicago and California, like, they were out for over a year. Yeah. Like, they have developmental specialists in their schools to help identify the developmental milestones that kids didn't hit because they were out for so long. Especially middle schoolers got crushed, because that's where you learn so many of your social skills. And then everything going on during the pandemic, all the political intensity and things along those lines. And we had nothing to do but to air out our opinions on Facebook. And we were like, oh, I thought I liked that person. I was like, I do, right? We understood why there was always good mores around. You don't talk about politics and religion at the dinner table.
now everybody does.
Now everyone knows. It's like, yeah.
Do you think we'll ever get back to a simpler time, if that was truly a simpler time, or are we just beyond that? And politics is an open topic. Religion's an open topic.
No, I think we will. I wouldn't say I'm a student of history, but I think the pendulum does swing. Yeah. And I do think what COVID reminded, what it gave folks a taste of, was that there's more to life than just work and busyness.
Correct.
And I don't think folks have forgotten it. And I think what we saw coming out of the shutdown were people grieving going back to work, because we were working so hard, and then we stopped. And we think that stopping is the only way that we could have that sense of peace and unity and intimacy that we might have had. And the truth is that there's probably a good balance. And no, I think we will. I think the pendulum's going to swing back to a more simple time. I do.
Yeah. You had just mentioned that we were all working so hard and then everything stopped. And then I go back to you. You were speaking internationally. About half of your business was outside speaking.
That's right.
The other half is practice. Your practice.
My clinical work. Your
counseling. It just all pretty much stopped for a few months.
Disappeared. Went away. Yeah. And then counseling came back. But speaking, I would speak in Canada. About 30% of my speaking was in Canada. About 30% of it was in California. Yeah. Well, those 2 places were closed.
Yeah, closed for business. Years. You're right.
So I did some Zoom work and things along those lines. But and then the counsel, and I never wanted to be a full-time therapist.
Correct.
I always wanted to divide my time between clinical work and creative writing and speaking. Call my office the lab. Correct. Right? And then I go on the road for the classroom.
That's right.
And there was a good, healthy balance there. And that was part of one of my struggles during COVID, was I didn't have that outlet in the way that I once had.
Your business basically changed overnight. And I know that you had some issues, health issues.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to you're laying in bed with broken ribs. How did you break all your ribs?
Yeah. So during COVID, we bought our dream home, because the interest rates were stupid.
Yeah.
And we wanted to live in this place, Sugar Mill Pond, on the pound. And those houses never come up. We've been there for 3 years and we still haven't seen one come up on the pond. Kabing! It came open, 2% interest rates, like free money. And we didn't have to sell our old house. And so we got it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to move my office into the old house, which was 1.25 miles away.
Yep.
And so I decided when my oldest started driving, I'm not going to buy a new vehicle for him. He can take mine and I can ride my bike to work back and forth to my old house, which is just right there. Yeah. And it was for 3 months until one day I am inflated. This was another I got it moment of just paying attention to the small things. And I knew that the guy had told me when I bought the bike, you want the tire pressure in between this certain amount. And if it's too full, that's not going to be good. You'll skid. Things will happen. And it was too full that day, but I was like, it'll be all right. It's no big deal.
It's just one trip.
It's just one trip. Yeah. And so I was going up onto a sidewalk, which is kind of like a curb, and then the grass and then the sidewalk. And so instead of going at it perpendicularly, I came at it at an angle. Well, that tire hit it. Now, if it had a little give in it, it would have bit and would have gone up. But instead of biting, it skidded, the handlebars turned, and I flew over the handlebars about 3 or 4 feet. Wasn't even going that fast. This is a physics problem I still can't fully wrap my mind around. And came down and fell on my head and neck right here. And as soon as I landed, I heard gunk, 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 gunk. Like I knew
bones
that ribs. My ribs just snapped. Boom, 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 boom. I knew it. I was praying that I didn't have a broken neck. And so I had displaced, which is like a full Flintstone break, displaced 8 of the 12 ribs, and I'd cracked 2 others and displaced them in multiple places. Worst pain that I can imagine.
Yeah, because it affects your breathing so much.
You can't breathe. And luckily there was a Youngsville police officer right behind me who saw it, called 911 right away. And as usual, the volunteer fire department's going to get there and save your life. And like they were there, they were on it, put a neck brace, took real good care of me. Acadian got there, got to the hospital. They were about to discharge me from the hospital. And again, this was a COVID spike, January 22. Yeah. They're about to discharge me. I'm like, let's get a CAT scan. It's like, that's a good idea. I don't know why, but let's do it. And found out that I had a punctured lung.
Oh my goodness.
Which is really serious.
Yeah.
Like the ribs are going to heal. It hurts like hell, but we can morphine you up. And so that produced a week in the hospital for that, just allowing that to heal up. And then I was back in the hospital again 2 weeks later because I had pulmonary embolisms from just not breathing and not moving. Could have been because of COVID. We really don't know, but I had a lot of small pulmonary embolisms. So I was in the hospital again for a week with that. It was after that where it, having the business shut down.
Correct.
At that point, I had COVID 5 times already by that time.
You had already had
my
COVID
accident.
5 times?
I had already had COVID 5 times. Each bout of COVID lasted about a month to a month and a half. So I'd miss a solid week of work when I was highly symptomatic. And then I would get better. And then I would crash for 2 days.
Yeah.
And couldn't function. And couldn't see straight. And so there's a small group of us who have had like that type of symptom. Red Laurel's one of them, where he and I will talk. He goes, how you been? Like he goes, dude, I get it. He goes, I would have never believed it until I had it, until you wake up 6 weeks later and you just can't function.
He's had it multiple times too.
Yeah. He had it really bad once, and he got long COVID, which is the thing. And so when I'm laying in the bed, it was just like, I just can't get it going. I can't get it going. I tried to restart the podcast. Yeah. I had tried so many times to take on speaking engagements, but had to cancel because I was sick. And then now I'm about to go speak at the largest religious education conference in the world. I had gotten a really big run. It was a really important deal. And I had to call them and cancel again.
And had to hurt too.
And my wife and family have been with me. I'd been so sick for 3 years, up and down, up and down. I'm about as low as I've ever been. Like I'm asking myself, am I better? Is it better for me to be here or not? Like I wasn't that dark. And I shared that with my wife, and she goes, that's not even a question.
Yeah.
Like it's better to have you here. And that evening, and I'm just in the bed because it's the only place I can really breathe. And I watched this video that was going around on Facebook, and it was Tom Hanks, Shia LaBeouf, Robert De Niro, and a few other actors. They're all sitting around a table, and Tom Hanks just speaks. And that's like E.F. Hutton for me. I could listen to the man talk all day long. And he says, and it was like, what's the one thing you've learned? And he goes, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
You're down in the dumps.
Here we go.
He said, you're down. You think, everything's bad. This too shall pass.
Yeah.
You're up. And I'd been up, as you know, for so long. Everything's going your way. Like everything you touch just miraculously goes viral or whatever. This too shall pass.
It does. It always.
Right.
And it goes back to life is hard.
Life is hard.
Yeah.
And that sounds, I know it's like folks are like, oh, it's either you can go, that's so cliche, but when you finally get it, and that it's hard and it's meant to be hard, and that there is value in the struggle.
Yeah.
And that there's so much, and being able to look back at your life, and like I'd been able to look back at my childhood and overcoming and making it through a lot of things, but there was nothing that I could compare this one to. Just my body just wouldn't work. And I have worked hard since losing the weight, as you know, to keep my body and to stay as healthy as I could. But I was like, life is hard, and that's okay. And that this will pass, and it may take some time, but it will pass, and you will come out on the other side of this. And folks told me, and I was so grateful. People like you would text me, and other folks would text me like, you're going to come out on the other side of this better and stronger. And there will be, in our Christian faith term, there's going to be a resurrection unlike anything you've ever seen. And they were right.
They were right.
Oh,
and look, right. And here you are. Have your therapy practice going again. Your speaking is ramping back up again.
And look, when I was in Canada, I was on fire.
Really?
Like, a buddy of mine, a good friend of ours, came out of a real rough point in time in his life, our buddy Mike Pontin. And when he was coming out on the other side of that, I heard him speak. I was like, I don't know what happened to you, because like it's coming, like what's coming out of you?
He's bringing it.
And I shared with him when I was done in Canada, I was like, those are the best talks I've ever given in my life, like by a factor of 10 or more.
Are they recorded? And, is there anywhere anybody can
I think one of them. I think one of them's recorded. I'll need to find out. I don't know, and I've got a good bit of break, but I know what's coming in the spring. I have so much more wisdom, pain when it is able to be reflected on and gotten through, and look. I didn't get through that by myself.
Sure.
Like my wife and my boys carried me. My friends carried me. But I just have so much more to give.
Yeah.
And I can feel it when I'm sitting with my clients too. And I didn't believe it. But I believe it, like that passed, and there is growth, on the other side of it, and I'm living it.
Yeah.
And it feels amazing. And I don't really know what's next. I don't know what's coming next, but I know it's exciting,
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Well, that was my next question.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's great though. And that's the beautiful mystery.
Right.
We're on a journey, but one thing I can tell you is this experience, and you know this.
Yeah.
This experience and you going through this, you are going to serve so many people by doing this. And even being here and sharing with the 3 people that listen. Yeah. It's going to help them,
For sure.
But, man, it's so important that you go out and you share it.
Yeah, and I think folks see me as and I am. Yeah. I'm a bright, I'm a positive, I'm enthusiastic, I'm charismatic, and I love people. I see like you. It's hard for me to see the bad in people. That's what I have my wife for. No, that's a snake. Oh no, it's a good person. That's a snake. And she's always right.
I hear you.
That I've had some real deep struggles too. And I think that's validating for folks who life's not just always a bed of roses.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And you make it through.
So you're going to go out and you're going to be better than you ever were at speaking. But I go back to the TEDx that you did, that you took my place.
I sure did. You gave it to me.
I know. So we were coaching together, for lack of a better word. And
no, you were coaching me. Let's just be clear. I wasn't coaching. I helped you with the writing piece a little bit, but you were coaching me, brother.
I saw this TEDx and I go, man, I want to apply for it. So I applied for it. And then I tell you, I say, hey, it's closing in like 2 hours. I think you ought to put your name in it. And now it's had over 2.2 million views.
2.2 million views, man.
I'm going to put that in the show notes. But tell us about that experience.
Oh, that was incredible. And I'm great. That was a game changer for me career-wise. Pre-TEDx, I went from having a really, not as much counseling, but even a little bit counseling. But in the speaking realm, folks are like, why should we hire you? To where I didn't have to do any of that anymore. Yeah. But when I showed up on site, folks were waiting to hear from me because of the talk itself and the fact that I was chosen to give it.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful, to you for that. That was a game changer.
That was not me.
That was a game changer for me. And I had a lot working against me because there's like several, as you remember, there's 4 or 5 levels of making the cut. At the second to last level, they were like, hey, we'll tell you, we'll just be straight up. You're a religious guy, you're Catholic, strike 1. And you're a professional speaker, strike 2. Like, we don't like either one of those things. And I was like, look, I'm well rehearsed at being able to button down the Catholic stuff. Yep. I can't help the fact that I'm a professional speaker, but what I can tell you is that no one's going to work harder than me. I will do everything y'all tell me to do. And these people are 20 years younger than me.
Yeah.
Like 20 years younger than me. And they helped me craft that message in a way that was just mind-blowing, phenomenal. My family, my wife's family showed up. My little nieces and nephews who were always like, like when they showed at the end of that, they looked at me like they were like, my niece, Sarah, was so proud of me for doing that. That was a really special moment that we shared, and you came, and that was just a game-changing moment.
Personally and professionally.
Oh, personally and professionally.
So would you do it again if you had the chance? Because I see there's got to be a TEDx series on the after effects of COVID, for example, and how it's changed. And you would be perfect to do it again.
Oh man, I don't know but I would absolutely do it again. Probably in a different market. I certainly would want to take that maybe like to Houston or someplace or wherever. But like I'd want as many folks who couldn't make the Houston cut for whatever to get the TEDx from Million Street, which I think they're still doing. I think we still have TEDx in town now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I need to look at it again. And we need to start looking in Houston.
It was phenomenal. It was a phenomenal experience. Yeah. It helped me tell my story and connect it to my work in a way that I'd never done before. Yeah. And I'm very grateful to all of the folks who did that here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It helped me with that.
Well, your story is not done, that's for sure.
No, it is not.
How you help people it's going to be never ending for you.
Yeah.
If you're breathing, you're helping.
Hot dog.
It's unbelievable. So you do help so many people. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I always like to ask, you worked with Mother Teresa's organization.
I did.
And so my last question is always based from her work with her nuns, where she was telling people, look, when someone encounters you, you leave them different and better than when they found you, or you found them rather. Mm-hmm. How do you leave people different and better just from encountering you?
Yeah. I think what is, and this happens very naturally for me, and I don't know how replicable it is. I like people and I like teenagers, and I think they leave from me feeling seen in a way they haven't ever been seen. And their good qualities just like stick out at me like a corn cob coming out of the middle of their forehead. Like I just see it. And usually folks, when they're coming to me, it's because things are not good and they've gotten a lot of flack, or they're going through a really hard time and the situation is incredibly messy. And when they leave my office for the first time, they see someone who they consider to be legitimate, who they feel like knows what he's doing, who legitimately sees them. And not that I ignore the challenges that are present, but I see the good that is in them. And you do that too. You have that unique ability too. And I believe in them. And I think that's how I leave them different. I think that's how, and they leave me different too.
Thanks for joining us this week on I Finally Get It. For more information on Roy and what he's got going on now, visit the show notes at ifinallygetit.com. See you next week when we sit down with Mark Fontenot and he shares the moment when he says, I finally get it. If you or someone you know owns a business and is willing to share your light bulb moment, reach out to us at jeff@ifinallygetit.com.